Most people try and transform their business through automations and tools. But if your knowledge base is scattered everywhere, those transformations won't hold. Ahoy, and welcome back to another episode of The Captain's Log. The last week I've been here in Gaborone in Botswana in Africa, and I've been working with my friend Graham Hill, who's got a business here called Cappuccinos. It's an Italian restaurant. And the last year and a half, we've been working on building out systems and automations. But in order for us to get to that, we've had to really focus on building out knowledge base. Now, a lot of organizations have got their knowledge base scattered everywhere. You'll know this from your own business or maybe teams that you've worked with, across Google Drives, the ways that the folders are structured, are things on Slack or things on Asana or Trello or whatever. And these things are kind of scattered everywhere. You've also got members of your team that have got large knowledge base within their own minds because they've probably been in that organization for some time. And if that person actually walks away from your business, they will leave with a whole body of knowledge unless you have it documented somewhere. So it's very important to do that. Before you can build any automation or any tool, really, you should be really looking at your knowledge base, making sure it's organized, making sure it's documented properly, making sure processes are documented properly, and making sure that the relevant people within your organization have access to that. That also removes bottlenecks. It allows people to be empowered to find the information they need when they need it. So one of the things that we look at when we are doing a systems transformation is a model that was designed by one of my teachers, Matt Taylor. I'm not sure how long ago it was, but it was quite some time ago. And it's called the 7 domains. And it actually shows all of the interconnected pieces within an organization to actually create a self-organizing system. So let me share with you a little bit of story and context about my work with Graham and his team and where we started and how this 7 domains model can really help you with understanding how this works within your own business. So I've got the 7 domains here. As you can see, it's this interconnected circle here. And you've got venture management, project management, technical systems, environment, education, process facilitation, and you've got the body of knowledge. Now, you can see how these elements actually interconnect with each other. And they each have their own kind of description and role. And I might just share a little bit about that with you because it'll make sense as I go. So the body of knowledge, this is the total sum of information and information about how we get information that the system requires to remain viable, to improve, and to innovate. So this can be your whole body of knowledge, like your SOPs, your processes, documentation, manuals, anything that the organization actually needs, the knowledge that the organization needs to function. Then you have process facilitation, which is the philosophy and the methods for removing obstacles and clearing paths so that processes within the system flow naturally and efficiently. Process facilitation is like negative space in a painting or a drawing. So process facilitation, right now at CAPS, at Cappuccinos, we've implemented a sprint plan. So we're using Asana. Of course, the business has its own BAU. It has stuff that we do on the day-to-day, but we are also working on improving things as we go. So we have implemented a sprint plan there in Asana. And it's a very interesting process because when we first started working together, the team weren't using Google Drive, they weren't using email. Everything in the business was pretty much paper-based. And so we've been slowly implementing processes and pulling everything over to this knowledge base. Education here is about processes and methods by which the system learns, how it explores experiences, gathers explanations and examples, and how it sets expectations. So for us right now, what we're actually building at CAPS is we're building a school community where we're pulling in all of the training modules into school. There's a few considerations here. Obviously, working with a client in Africa, cost is one of them. Schools just released a $9 a month school community, which is epic. So we can actually build out their knowledge base and their education within school. So that's kind of what we're working on at the moment. The next one is environment. And this is the physical, emotional, and metaphysical field within which the system plays its role. But the system is not merely subject to the environment. It actually creates the environment and then is also in turn created by it. I've mentioned this a few times on the podcast. We create our environments and our environment creates us. So what kind of work environment are we creating? You know, by the way that we show up, by the physical environment, the space that we're working in. What is it like to actually be working in that space? What are the interactions like around the people, amongst the people? Because these also impact people on a psychological safety aspect or an emotional aspect. So these are other things that need to be addressed, because if people don't feel safe within an organization either, these other things are going to fall apart regardless. There needs to be safety, and we need to create an environment that's going to enable the best type of work. Cappuccino's is a restaurant as well. You know, you can imagine you're a host of an environment. You're a host of people coming in to spend time with families, to celebrate, to, you know, have a nice dining experience. So it's very important for the team to hold that space and to be the first ones to actually create that environment, to bring those people in to have that experience, to create memories, to create nice memories. That's really what that space is, and that environment is about. The next one is technical systems. So this is artifacts that we create to amplify and attenuate the other domains so that the system can be internally and externally requisite and cybernetically responsive. That might be a little bit too much or technically to explain that, but technical systems are the things that we're using. They could be the automations, they could be the tools that we use, they could be the software that we use. So any technical systems involved in keeping this system together is where that lives. But it's very difficult to build technical systems, as I mentioned, unless you've got the knowledge base in order, the body of knowledge in order to actually build those technical systems. Then the next one is the project management. So this is about how we efficiently allocate resources and monitor energy flow in the pursuit of our objectives. Obviously, energy is finite, so we need to make sure that we manage our resources effectively. This also relates back to the sprint planning and the process facilitation, because we need to actually manage that through some kind of process of how we allocate people, money, time in order to build out. It could be building out systems, it could be working on projects, it could be staffing. So that's a very important piece. And then of course that also impacts the environment. You can see how these things are all interconnected, because if we overburden somebody with an energetic drain, you know, the morale is going to come down. That's going to affect the environment as well. So you can see how these things all interconnect. And then we have venture management. So this is the philosophy, the culture, and the methods employed by the system to determine its homeostasis and engage in complex activities designed to explore unknown opportunities for growth and transformation. So I guess the leader of the organization, or the CEO of the organization, probably lives very much in this space here, in venture management. And if the CEO is busy tied up in all of this other stuff because there's no organization, the body of knowledge is everywhere, they've become a bottleneck because everyone needs to come to them for the basic day-to-day things, then the CEO is not going to have capacity to actually go into that venture management piece of these 7 domains, because they're going to be so burdened with all these other things. So this ship can't sail out for new opportunities and new ventures because it's tied up in all this other stuff. So It's very, you can see how there's a kind of a stage here. Like, I think there's a reason why body of knowledge is at the top, because I think that's the thing that needs to be addressed first. You're going to want to rush to do AI transformation. You're going to want to rush to build out systems. But have you actually got a nice, clean body of knowledge sitting there that you can build these systems on top of? Because if you build systems on top of chaos, you're just going to magnify or expand that chaos. So it's very important to get to that body of knowledge first. And so that's it. Like, we started working on this project, like I said, a year and a half ago. We're now getting into another piece of implementation which I think really sits in this education body of knowledge. Actually, it's even environments. It's also technical systems. And it's actually, yeah, it touches a lot of these things here actually, but because it has a lot to do with staff retention. It has a lot to do with the digital environment, the culture. You know, we're building a community, an online community for the team. And we're also creating a space for education, which actually, it really helps. That all feeds back in the system to create a stronger team, a stronger working environment. And there's many things here that are we're kind of touching on, but obviously it really does stem from this body of knowledge piece. So the way that we're dealing with that is this next week, I will be starting to put together some training modules, and we've got all the different sections of the restaurant that we are working on. So the grill section, the pizza section, the back of house, front of house, waiter training, barista training, bar training, and we're collecting all the best bits and pieces, and we're creating training modules, and then I'm going to film those training modules. And then what we're going to do is we're going to invite the team into the school community, and so they can start running promotions in there amongst the team. They can start sending messages out, so there's like a consolidated digital environment, virtual environment for the team to live. We can put everyone's birthdays in there. We can notify people of upcoming days and trainings and things like that, and it can all go into this consolidated calendar inside the school community. I don't know if anyone's used Skool like this before. I'd like to actually find out. I think it's quite an interesting use of Skool. I know Skool is generally for building communities, paid communities even, or tiered communities. This is obviously an internal kind of thing that we're building with Skool. I think it's a really great tool because, well, it's now $9 a month, so we can add as many members as we like to this school community without having to pay extra. So I think it's a really great solution, being in Africa and trying to keep the costs down. It is definitely a factor working here. So that is a little bit about the 7 domains and the work that we're doing here in GABS. You might feel like you're actually slowing down when you have to pause and actually focus on this body of knowledge. It might feel like you're actually slowing down because it's kind of the boring stuff of getting drives together, getting file structures together, getting all those, there's really annoying, like fiddly little bits together. But it actually, if you can slow down and deal with that now, it's going to pay dividends later. And that's the thing. Leaders want the AI, they want the automation, they want the system so they can go and focus on that venture management piece. But really, the magic is in actually building that very strong foundation with a strong knowledge base. And this is the same practice that I'm bringing into my own business and into the leadership community. It's like, before you delegate, you've got to organize the knowledge base. Before you ship something off to somebody to do for you, I've just started working with a number of different contractors to edit podcasts and to work on some social media stuff. And before I hand things off to them, I need to make sure I've documented the process and I've got the file structure in order, clearly labeled and clearly articulated for them. You can't just hand something else off to somebody and expect them to just know exactly what they're doing. It's going to take you more time. It's going to be very frustrating because you're not going to get the quality of work out of that person because you haven't set them up for success. It's the same thing for automation. Don't start automation until you clean up your knowledge base. The compass point is that if your knowledge base is scattered, your business is scattered. And in order to get coherence in your business, the first step is to actually consolidate and organize the knowledge base. This is the way to set the best and the strongest foundation. And here are the reflective questions for this week. What part of your business or life still depends on memory instead of a documented system? Where are you losing time because information is not centralized? And what would become possible if you had one single source of truth that everyone could access? And that's it for this week's episode of The Captain's Log. If that resonated, do like and subscribe to the channel. Maybe share this with somebody who needs to hear this message right now. And if you're interested, do check out The Leadership. The link is in the description below. And until next week, stay steady, Captain. Hold fast.